Running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans, welcome to Talking in Ovals. I'm going to start saying the episode at the beginning, Hyatt, just so we can keep it in order. This is episode number 55. 55.
Crazy.
We made it this far. What's up, Hyatt? How are you?
Not much. I got to say, with all the scrutiny prior to this year's World Championships, what a meet that we had. I mean, we had some amazing performances, some upsets. I think that we all focused on the athletes that weren't there prior to the event, but those athletes who were there showed up, showed out, and what a host we had in Budapest. It was an amazing, wonderful meet.
It was great. It's kind of reminiscent of what we were talking about with Meet of Champs over here with New Jersey, where everyone was so fearful of nationals. We ended up having a pretty damn good meet. So the athletes that show up always show out in track, and that's kind of a thing. I do want to give a shout out, Noah Lyles. I love you. What Noah Lyles said. Now, honestly, I think everyone that knows track and knows basketball understands that the NBA champions are the world champions. But just the fact that he put his nose out there and is stirring it up. And now you're getting guys like Katie, Damian Lillard, Devin Booker responding.
Aaron Gordon said that he would beat Noah Lyles in a 200-meter race, which is absolutely comical. But
to a track athlete, it just puts track on the map a little more. And I love what Noah Lyles did. And I would love for more professional, runners to mix it up because they're in that echelon of elite athlete. But before we get into anything else fun, today is Monday, August 28th of 2023. That is when we are recording. If you like what you hear today, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us on the socials at Talking in Ovals. You'll see the logo. We are there. So last week's show, we had a great show. A different type of show, very informative. I learned a ton. We had Patrick Bogansky on. He does business development for ATT Sports, and what that is they are a company that lays down polyurethane tracks all around the Northeast, and we got into the ins and outs of polyurethane. He gave us kind of like a 411 on what it is, the difference between Mondo, latex, that. It was really cool. If you're a track nerd and junkie, definitely go seek it out, and I think you'll have a great time listening to it. This week, though, we have another really good show, and I think another unique show, and something that is super close to Dave and I, because, I'm someone that competed in this complex. Dave is someone that coached and probably wished he had it while he was in school. But our two guests today are Scot and Kyle Austin. Scott's a coach and teacher at Toms River Intermediate South and automatic timing co-manager at the John Bennett Indoor Complex in Toms River. Kyle is a facility manager at that same exact complex, better known as the Toms River Bubble. What's going on, boys?
How you doing?
Hey, guys, what's going on?
We're doing well. We're, anytime we get to talk track, that makes us happy. And especially when we get to do things outside of the periphery. Like, don't get me wrong, talking to some of our idols never gets old. But when we get to do this type of fun stuff where we get to do a little more of the ins and outs, we have a great time. So I want to start off. Before you guys were involved in the bubble, did either of you or any of you have an interest, have any involvement with track and field beforehand? Scott, you could start off if you want there.
Sure. Well, both of us threw at High School South, back in high school with Coach Jordan, Mike Jordan, who used to be at Central, and he was at South back then. When I started teaching back in the late or early 2000s, a position opened up at Intermediate West at the time, and I took it. I was there for the 4 or 5 years that I was at Intermediate West. I was the throws coach over there. When the new school opened up at Intermediate South here in Beechwood, I've been coaching ever since. So I'm going on about 25 years or so coaching throws in the middle school. We've seen a lot of things happen and good things come out of, our neck of the woods in the middle school area. And that's kind of my background as far as that goes. When the bubble opened up, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But
yeah, Kyle, anything for you?
I took over the throws coach at Intermediate when it became Intermediate North. When Scott left and went to Intermediate South, I came on there at Intermediate North, and I was there for about 8 or 9 years. And after that, I moved to Intermediate East. I've been in Intermediate East ever since, coaching throws. So I guess I started somewhere around 2005, 2006. And I spent, like I said, 8 years or 9 years at Intermediate North, and now I'm in East.
That's awesome. So I have to ask both of you, since you guys are both throwing coaches and you were both throwers, has Ryan Krauser introducing the Krauser glide or Krauser slide changed the way you guys coach at all? Because obviously it's a little more of an advanced technique, but it's not the spin when it comes to shot put. Is that something you guys could translate down to the lower level, or are you just really focused on the basics of, getting your feet planted, using your lower body, good launch point, things like that?
I think both of us are. I mean, for myself, I don't like to coach the spin. I know some of our kids like to experiment with it, but our season is so short. It's only about 8 weeks long, and we don't do weekends, and our practices are an hour and 15 minutes. We don't have a lot of time to really, I don't feel, to do the spin with the shot put. I coach the spin with the discus. But with the shot put, I'm sure I'll have kids who are into it who will watch it and be like, "Oh, can I try that?" But there's just not enough time in my opinion, to do it with my kids.
Yeah, I mean, in middle school, it's just about glide, basic technique, keep them interested, make them want to perform at that next level. I mean, I coach middle school, and it's all about just keeping it fun and making sure that they get the basic footwork so that they want to compete at the next level. You rarely see anyone spin middle school level, at least obviously shot put.
Yep.
Yeah, we've seen it.
Oh, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I agree with both the guys. I feel like my job in middle school is to get kids involved, let them have a good time with the season, let them experiment with it, and then hopefully keep them involved up until the high school. I just want to get my numbers to do well on our level, and then hopefully we can move them on to the next level. And they, if they want to do anything more technical, then that's somewhere they'll have more time to do that practice.
And I'll say this: you guys are the first two strictly throwers that we've ever had on the show. We've had jumpers, short sprinters. We haven't had any jumpers, have we? No. Does Jordan Tooney count as a jumper? He technically does.
He's a decathlete, sure.
Okay, so but technically, you guys are the only straight up throwers we ever had on the show. So I like having a different perspective there because we have a lot of middle distance and sprinters and things like that. But I want to jump now directly into the bubble. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. The bubble came around, what was it, 04, 05? I think I was a sophomore or junior when it popped up. I remember I think I ran a Frost soft meet there.
Yeah, I think it was 4.5 or 5.6. To be honest with you, we talk about this all wintertime, trying to remember how long ago it was. I want to say 5.6. I could be wrong. I'd have to go back and double check with the internet, but it's somewhere in that area. Yeah.
Yeah, so my memory is not too bad. So I'm going to start this one off with you or whoever wants to answer, actually. Which one of you first got involved with the bubble and how did that happen?
Well, it was me, right? Mm-hmm. When we were teaching, the people who kind of came in and took over as the facility manager and the person who was in charge of the computers and stuff was actually my mentor when I went into technology, Bill Baxter, who's at Intermediate East, a principal at Intermediate East, and we were both kind of an afterthought. We weren't really involved with it at the beginning. There were a couple other people that kind of got started with it, and then they were looking for more people, and Bill suggested that I got involved, being that I was in the tech department, and then I talked to Kyle and got him involved, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. We've been there ever since. Brian Wilkinson was there for a while as the facility manager, and we kind of worked under him, and then when he left, Kyle took over, and we've just been trying to build the best product we can there since then.
As someone that works with the fully automated timing system and things like that, how has that evolved over the years? Has it kind of stayed stagnant? Because I'm just a runner. All I know is sometimes we have fully automated timing. Sometimes we didn't at meets. I don't know the intricacies of it. So has that kind of taken any evolutionary steps that you've seen over the years? And in terms of that, how does that work also with officials and kind of educating them on how to use it and things like that?
I think the idea of fully automatic has kind of kept the same idea from the beginning. Yeah. You've just gotten more bells and whistles, and things have gotten better. The cameras have gotten better. The software is still pretty much, finish links is still pretty much what we've used since the beginning. How we've changed more is more of a meet management situation. And you guys could attest, years ago, you were running everything off of cards. Everything was being seated, in a paddock area. And God forbid you lost a card because now you don't know who a kid is. We've evolved from that to be everything's pre-seeded. Everything I can tell you a meet that's going to run on Thursday. I can get it seeded Wednesday night and be ready to go. So the timing part of it has kind of stayed the same. It's just the meet management has gotten much better from when we started. As far as the officials, at this point, we kind of limit. We really only need one official at the line. We need a starter and we need somebody at the line just in case. When people are coming across the line, we want to get the order. The finishing order, just so if we have to go back, if a kid loses a number, or, we can't identify a kid because we don't know what color the uniform is or whatever. It's just a backup more than anything. So we don't, the days of having 8 timers, 1 per lane or, whatever, like those days are over. We really only need 1 at the line at this point.
Are there, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. With the inception of Miles Split and Robert Keller and those guys, how much do you guys incorporate that into helping you with seat times? I know now like coaches have to go on, put in their seat times on Miles Split prior. So do you guys have access to all that information prior to every meet, or does Miles Split have to share that information with you? Like how does that work with that marriage with a Miles Split?
When we're named as the timer of that event, the John Bennett timers, then I have access to any of the info put in. So any of the times, any of the seat times, any of the heights, any of that stuff. I can go into Miles Split at any time, see how many competitors there are. So I have access to all of that before the meet. What ends up happening, just how it works. So let's say if we're running a meet on a Thursday, your meet closes Wednesday at midnight. Thursday morning, my meet shell is built, and then I go on to Miles Split and pull down all of the entries. It populates into high tech, and then that's how we seed everything. So we do have access to all of the seed times. And there's times you get a phone call from the coach saying, "Listen, I put the wrong seed time. Can you help me out?" and all that kind of stuff. And so we do have access to all that stuff. Robert Keller does an amazing job.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had Robert Keller on, but
we want to.
He's on our list.
He does an amazing job, and for being the one guy in all of New Jersey who does that for Miles Split. He's, for us, he's been a great asset for us, and Miles Split has been great for us.
So would a coach contact you, or would they contact Miles Split if they put 1 hour rather than 1 minute, in like a 400? Because I'm sure that has happened on certain.
Usually, what will happen is the coach will contact the meet director, who then will contact me. If the meet director doesn't want to go in on their own or cannot go in on their own and understand how to do it, doesn't know how to do it, because some meet directors can do it on their own, some don't. They'll just, they'll let me know, hey, listen, Johnny Smith in the 400 has the wrong time. Can you help me out and just fix it? Or we'll fix it on the back end. Scott will come in for the meet and say, when we go to seed, Johnny Smith is the wrong seed time. We'll fix it when we're at the bubble before we print our performance lists.
Gotcha.
So when it goes to upkeeping and running the facility and things like that, how much involvement does NJSIA have in terms of regulations and things that you guys can do or can't do in terms with different meets? Or are you guys kind of allowed to kind of handle your facility as you want? As what are the things that go in there?
We handle the facility the way we want. The way it really is the NJSIA they're our renter of the facility.
Okay.
So back when it was Billy Bruno and back before that, when it was Don Dancer, pretty much they contact us and say, this is what we're looking to do. How can we make it work? And we, if it comes to setup of mats and, we use the intermediate school for the throws, any of that physical footprint type stuff, I push that off to John Biscotti, he runs he's in the custodial, but he kind of is my go-to guy when it comes to setups and things like that. When it comes to meet setups and things like that, the NJSIA determines how they're going to do their meet setup. We just get their database from there. But they've been very good with us. We're it's a working hand in glove type thing. They let me know. I tell them what we can and can't do, and go from there.
So how have you seen the bubble expand the running track, throwing community in Toms River? Because, you guys are Toms River natives along with Dave. I'm from Manchester, so I'm the redheaded stepsister over there. But how have you guys, growing up and then being involved here, What have you guys seen, the bubble do for the community?
Well, I mean, you see the buses when you come in for a meet. I mean, we've talked about recently, the last couple of seasons, kind of trying to figure out what kind of impact all these people come in on a weekend. We're pretty much running from January 1st to the second week in February every day, sometimes 2 on a weekend, 2 on a Saturday. And, it's a big impact for businesses and the local businesses to get these people that are leaving to go get food or gas or whatever it happens to be. You drive down 37 and there's bus full loads of kids getting off at McDonald's to go in and get dinner before they head home. And I mean, it's kind of it's a nice little thing to see that, it does kind of pay the township to have us there. That they do, even though they might not see it, but they do. I'm sure they get a spike from December to January, December to January in their income, in their revenue, just because of the amount of people that come through the bubble. We have meets of 1,500 kids in a database, and we get some of those meets where we used to do USATF would come in, and you're getting people from all over the place, from New York, from Pennsylvania, from Delaware, all coming in to run there, and we think it's positive. We think that that the businesses are doing well with it. It's something that we kind of talked about trying to figure out, but. Right now we're just assuming that that's what it is.
Yeah, and I know my daughter went to Intermediate East, and they used to have gym class there. So it's added a whole new place where the schools can provide instruction for kids, and you can give clinics. And I remember when I was coaching, if there was a meet on a certain night, it was open to the local county high schools to actually have a practice in there for kids who would qualify for state meets or meet champs. So it was a great place where you could go train kids, so that way you didn't have to worry about snow or weather. So I know as an ex-coach, that was a wonderful option to have. Like, hey, anyone who qualified for this meet, we're going to have open time bubble, bring your kids. So that was a tremendous asset as a coach.
Yeah, and if you talk to the Toms River coaches, the one event that really sticks in my head is pole vault. Pole vault, in the past, you had nowhere to work out. Now, if you talk to the Toms River coaches, the Toms River guys, the pole vault guys are there all the time because they have the opportunity to jump, rain, snow, wind. They're in there. They have that chance. So I think overall that that building is great for track. It's great for, like you said, other instances, great for the gym classes, things like that. It's used all the time.
So how much upkeep has to happen when the season's over? Do you guys have to talk to people about maybe resurfacing the area? Maybe you have to get new pits. Like, does the school district pay for the pits, or do you guys get them from each school for each? Like, all right, this winter we're gonna have High School South. We're gonna use their pole vault pits, or do you guys have all of your own personal equipment that's just used for the actual bubble?
We do not have bubble pits. The pits come in from other schools. If you've been in there recently, there's the red pit that comes from High School South. The blue pit is High School North's pit. It works, it's pretty good for those schools because then they don't have to store them over the wintertime, and they're stored inside. When it comes to high jump mats, we have one high jump mat that comes from High School East. The other one is one that's in the facility. When it comes to resurfacing, we do have to resurface parts of the track because of the usage of the track. You figure when I took over, I forget how many years ago, I think it's 8, 9, 10 years ago when I took over, we had between 53 and 55 meets. My schedule I did 3 weeks ago, I have 76 scheduled next year.
Wow.
Jesus.
So as Scott said, we start the new year. The NJSA decided they would start their winter schedule December 4th as opposed to the 14th, where they used to start because they believe that would be better for the athletes. So we got a couple more meets, but start January 2nd. I think I'm every single day, and most weekends I'm too in January. So about the second and a half week of February. So we, the amount of meets that we do, is way more than you get on the outdoor tracks. So yes, we have to redo the start line. We do it pretty much pretty much every year. We've kind of waited for this year. We haven't done it yet. We're going to do it just before the season starts. So yeah, it does get a lot of usage, and that's not counting practices that are in there, as well as coaching over there. We use it for spring track, so it is used a lot.
Which is why it's imperative that everyone uses 1/4-inch spikes, because anything longer. Eighth. I'm sorry, you're right. Eighth.
Stop trying to tear up the track, Hyatt.
Hey, no. It's eighth.
Now we have to research it twice a year.
It's 1/8-inch pin, right?
Pyramid. 1/8-inch pyramids.
Right. I mean, because anything more, it just adds to all that wear and tear. And I remember going there as a coach. Hey guys, get in this line. You got to get your spikes checked and get the little zip tie. And I'm like, guys, this is important because you don't realize what it was like before we didn't have this. Traveling.
Seriously, when we had to wear waffles on it,
or traveling up to Princeton where you couldn't wear spikes. I mean, these kids now, they don't have any clue what an asset that this facility has been to the whole state and especially to our area. So make sure you wear your 1/8-inch pyramids and don't try to cheat and wear some 1/4s.
So guys, have you ever considered selling sets of 1/8-inch pyramids in little bags to
absolutely do, I'm sure.
Here, a bag for $1.
Yeah.
Here you go, take it. Just make a little bit off of it.
But we do, as a district, we do buy and bag spikes to sell, because you have kids. Sometimes you have kids they're not there, especially with the Staten Island coming into play.
Yeah,
they don't run with us till the States, so they'll show up with the 1/4s, and then they'll want to buy spikes. So we do offer to sell them.
That's awesome. So I'm curious, because going back to the community, do any of the local running clubs try to work with you to have a kind of a series of track meets inside the bubble outside of the scholastic schedule? Or is it just way too freaking packed for you guys to fit something like that in?
In the past, we had USATF who would come through. COVID kind of obviously, blew that all up because you had kids coming from, as far away as Baltimore and as far north as Massachusetts coming down. Mm-hmm. So USATF has kind of gone away. To be honest with you, we have had people try to put things together. There's just no time. Yeah. There's no time for them. Everyone calls me, like, I just need one day, middle of January, just something. I'll take anything. And I'm like, I don't have anything to give you. So yeah, we haven't had anything, and I think it's just due to the amount of meets that we do.
And we can't run anything during the day, right, because the classes are in there for gym. So there's really no rentals during the week, unfortunately, during school hours, because you can't have people in there when there's kids in there, obviously. Yeah.
What's the ventilation like during the hotter months? Is it damn near impossible to do events in there? Because for me thinking, and some of the things that we've talked to certain people on the show, asking them what can we do to make this sport bigger and better and for the casuals? And it's something we're going to ask you both at the end as well. But a bunch of them have said, get community involved, more community involvement. And if there was something where even in these summer months, if we can have twilight meets in the bubble where not just runners like Joe Schmoes could come, the people from Shore AC, the kids can come in and do I feel that could be something that if doable, like I said, you guys run the facility and, I know you guys both have families. So now I'm asking you be away from your families longer, go do some twilight meets. Easy for me to say up here, but just trying to bang my head against a wall with track and stuff. Is the ventilation in there good enough to use, especially at night in these hotter months, or would it be something that would kind of suck for everybody?
We do have AC. AC was put in 2 years ago. Before that, I would say there was no way to get near it, after May. I think, but what we run into is, and even like I said, coaching there, I think in the spring and the summer, people don't want to run inside. Right. So for them, why am I going to run inside when I can run outside?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I haven't really been approached about doing anything in the spring or the summer. Like I said, because I think people just want to be, at spring track, I want to be outside. They don't want to be inside.
We got to get you guys. Got to get you.
What also plays into that?
I'm sorry. Said we need to get you guys a retractable dome so you can put it up. Go ahead. Sorry, Scott.
What also plays into that is the size of the track, because when you're running outdoors, you have a 400-meter track and indoors is a 200-meter. So, that does affect certain events or certain, distance events is not so much, but your sprints, it totally throws everything off. And when we have to do our meets in there for the middle schools, we kind of change things around and do the best we can. Like the 4x1 is kind of a mess, but
oh god, yeah,
we get it done. I mean, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. We'd rather be able to run in there than as opposed to not being able to run because it's raining or something like that. Because we get our meets sometimes changed into there when we have bad weather. So
in middle school, they're not that fast. So that's kind of a blessing. They're not that fast. Not that.
You're not putting a high school kid up on the 100-meter and having him finish in 10 meters.
Yeah, you're not putting an 11-second kid up there trying to hand it off on those curves.
Right. Exactly.
So, do you guys pretty much like already have your whole schedule for this whole winter already done? Is that done a year in advance, or like can someone call now and are there any openings? Like
I usually start doing my planning for next year during the state sectionals and group meets. One, because I'm there for a million hours, so I have time to do some stuff. And two, I get to see most of the coaches who are meet directors. And I go through the process of people who've been with us the longest, get first dibs on what they want, and they get a reciprocal date for the next year. So most of the times my schedule is done before we're out of school in June. At least I have a general idea. Now I may move one way or the other, a little meet one way or the other, but most of my meets are pretty much put down onto a calendar by the end of the school year.
Yeah, so Kyle, what's your favorite thing to eat so the coaches listening can go and buy it for you to sweeten up the deal and bring it to you and be like, I'd really love this date, Kyle.
We eat lots of pretzels when we're up there.
Now, I mean, but you have to figure. I mean, there are many meets that have had a long-standing tradition. So so I assume that like those meets just kind of renew for next year and the year after and the year after.
Yeah. I reach out to those guys and say, hey, we're doing it again next year. And, I haven't had anyone say, no, they're not. Most of them, the South meets always, Bobby's always like, yep, we're doing it again.
Yep.
And, Howell Rebel, the Rebel Track Club, they always do stuff. The short track guys always do stuff. South Jersey has 19 meets a year with us.
Right.
Wow.
So yeah, for the most part, we have a good relationship where I can just, touch base with them and say we're good. And they're like, yeah, just get me close to what I was this year and we'll go from there.
So how much do you and the meet directors, like you guys work together closely with those meet directors to get these running smoothly? Like obviously the meet directors have a lot on their plate, right? To like get all like a lot of the logistical like entries and things like that. That's a lot. But how much do you guys lean on each other to get these things functioning? Because obviously it's got to be a well-oiled machine to run these meets. So it's like, how much is that relationship important for you guys to have with meet directors?
Well, we have a pretty good relationship with all of our meet directors because we've known them for such a long time. Pretty much, I'll be honest, from when it comes to a meet, once that day of that meet shows up and people start filing in the building, they give us a seating criteria. I hand it off to Scott or our other one of our timers been around a long time, Stacy Scavuzzo, and say here's a criteria, and I kind of I step away and let them kind of work with the meet director if he has questions about how we're seating things and things like that. And if there's a fire, I put it out. Other than that, it's my timing crew who does all the rest of the work. So, but they work really well with the meet directors. The meet directors respect what we do. And they respect that, if we give them our opinion on things, they also respect that. If we want to change some things or move some things around, they're very good with that.
So, Scott, what's your best way of dealing with a testy meet director that's trying to reinvent the wheel with you?
Well, that's why it's good that Kyle and I work together, because I usually get frustrated a lot faster than he does. I've gotten fired up a couple times with a couple of coaches, and just because sometimes what they're saying is not the way that we do things. And, we kind of have our way of running a meet, and we do it so much that we kind of know what we're doing. Some of them, like Kyle said, kind of want to come in and reinvent the wheel, and we're like, no, that's not going to work that way, because it just doesn't work. like Kyle said, we have 70 something meets this year. We had 68 or something last year. And I was there for 60 of them. So we kind of have an idea of what's going to work, what's not going to work. And, usually, like Kyle said, they'll value what we have to say. And if they really, really, really want it the other way, we can always adjust to what is going on the track and how they want to do it, whether they want it in lanes, whether they want it in alleys, whether they want it, 10 people in a mile, they want 15, however, whatever they want, we can do. It's really their decision in the end. But we're also looking at it from a time standpoint too. Everybody would love to have 10 kids in the mile.
Yeah,
unfortunately, you can't have that when you have 45 kids that are running the mile. Sometimes you just can't run that many heats of the mile and get through a meet in a time frame where those kids that are running the first event are running in the 4x4 at the end, and now they're going to have to sit here for 4 hours waiting for their next event. So we try to move it and make suggestions to make sure it's moving through, as quickly as possible, but safe enough that the kids aren't going to get hurt on the track. And we can get through it. And, like on a Saturday when we have another event coming in after, we can't go 7 hours. And we've done that before with some meets, and it just one meet runs into the other. Now we're behind on the other one, and it just becomes a bigger issue. So we try to accommodate everything that they want, but sometimes we just have to go with what we know works best.
I could just see Kyle across the facility, and then seeing you getting flustered up and watching him swim through a sea of high school kids to get to you before you strangle a coach.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about how it works.
So, because I've been there, and there are times when not everything does go according to a plan. So, say an official disqualifies an athlete. Obviously, the proper protocol would be to most likely go to the meet director, but you guys are up on that little pedestal there, on the bleachers. So how many times do you guys get coaches and people coming directly to you when it's not necessarily your call? Do they have a hard time deciphering, we're here to a time and run the meet, but we're not the actual people that you have to talk to the officials, talk to the meet director, but then you guys are just there front and center. So I'm sure you guys get a lot of things that really might not be relevant to what you do. So how do you handle that situation? Do you redirect the coach to the proper person, or do you guys have to step in and get involved and kind of try to put out the fire?
Well, I'll give you a little example without naming schools. During a state event last year, there was a school who their kids were entered, but did not highlight them to enter their kids into the event. So all of the kids that they had entered did not run. Right. Now, the rule is if you do not highlight your athletes, they are scratched, to which the coach did not enjoy that their kids were scratched. And, that's why if you do ever come to the bubble, there's a chain at the bottom of the steps. I think it might have been year 2. We decided to put a chain there, which would keep out all the people we don't want on the stage.
Nothing will keep out an angry coach, though. They are coming. I don't even see the actual chain. They're going right for it. Here we come.
Right. But the coach came to me and, it was my fault. I ruined their athlete's year because they didn't participate in the sectionals. And one kid was actually, I think he was the number 1 or number 2 seeded kid in the mile in a section. But we just try to redirect them to the meet officials. Being as though we've both done it so long, now they know our names. So it's hey, Kyle, can you help? And I'm not my call. It's not my call. If a kid gets disqualified, not my call. And most of the coaches get it. The issue becomes when you start getting to the meets where kids advance. And with anything else, if a kid's advancing and they believe their kid was wronged, they're going to talk to anybody possible to try to get their kid re-entered into the meet. But most of them are respectful. We don't, it's very rare that we have a major problem.
It's usually the newer coaches that haven't been there before that come running up the stage with questions, and we're we don't answer those questions. That's got to go to the meet director or the head official, because they call up to us who's disqualified. We don't have any say in what happens on the track. Like you said, we're just there to time. And if somebody on the track says Johnny's disqualified, we check a box and send it out. If they come up, we're you have to go find somebody else. We were only told they were disqualified. We don't know why.
Funny thing is, you probably know they're new because they're coming to you, and they probably don't even know who the meet director or the head official actually are. So it's like, I'll help you go find that guy. That's about it. Go away. Like,
Yes.
It's not often I don't know a coach's face from indoor. If I don't know your face from a school, then you are brand new. So.
Coaches listening, if you don't know who Scott and Kyle are, go say hello next time you're in the bubble. So they will also treat you nicely.
So has there been a pressure as like things have evolved with getting the results out like that? Because I know now, like I'll be home, I'll be checking the results, and they're literally on mile split maybe 5 minutes after the event ends. Is that something that you like? Do you guys input the information into mile split and then it automatically generates so that we can check out the results? Or is that something that maybe Robert Keller or someone from mile split has to input?
That's actually a mile split. That's a mile split application that they came out with, live results. So it runs with high tech, which is the software we use to input our athletes and put out results and things like that. So all of our results automatically go through the mile split live and go directly out to the net, which is great, except for the fact that now you go back to coaches. Coaches are looking at mile split live and not paying attention to what's going on. Now a coach is screaming and yelling because their kid, I saw a mile split 5 minutes ago and he was in 4th place, but now he's in 6th place. Well, you didn't look at mile split after all the heats were scored, stuff like that. So live events are great, but we actually got to the point where I think we were tuning them down a little bit so you weren't getting them so fast.
Yeah,
because coaches, they would look right on their phone and they would
on their phone right away. I was at a meet there last year. I'm like,
yeah, it's a great tool. It's a great tool if you're mom and dad and you're sitting at home or sitting in the stands and say, hey, what did Johnny run? But for coaches, sometimes they don't really understand the ins and the outs of it. So it's.
The other problem with that is also that we ran into was kids weren't going over to the clerking area. They were looking at mile split, and once we seed the event, it goes right into mile split, and they can see their heat and their lane, and they're not going over and getting instructions from the clerks. Right. So the clerks have come over to us and asked us to slow it down, like don't post it as fast, because there's a setting where you can slow down, make it 3 minutes after you finish or 4, whatever, and because kids weren't coming over, and then they were misinformed and they weren't getting the instruction they should have been getting. So, like Kyle said, it's a great addition for people to see it. But there's some tweaks that hopefully they'll be made. That we talk to Robert all the time about it, that they can make and say, figure out how you could slow it down a little bit.
And in terms of the field events, like, is it still just you have to wait till the event's over? The official brings everything over, piece of paper, and then just to kind of in putting everything.
That's the way. Yeah, that's the way we do it. I know there are venues that do. They do like the field links where it is wireless from an iPad, but that's not something we do. We wait for the sheets to come over. So like if you're in an NJSIA meet, your cards are all the way over in the building, and sometimes the officials say, "I'm going to wait till the 4th flight's over to bring all the stuff back." But yeah, so we're still at the mercy for cards for that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I feel like, Robert, if you're listening by any chance, when you get the heats, put on the top somewhere, these heats are unofficial. Please check into your clerking area to maybe remind the coaches that aren't paying attention as they're looking like, oh, shit, my athlete hasn't checked in yet. Thanks, mile split. Like, so that you guys aren't getting any flack because you guys just kind of let the 8 ball out that you're the reason why people aren't getting results as fast.
That's the argument with some of the track, some of the track guys, the older guys are like, they're saying, well, you don't need to check in because you can see it. And then the older guys, like, everybody needs to check in. And, you get kids who don't really run track that much. And then they get DQ because they cut in too early. Well, did you get your instructions? Well, no, I wasn't there because I knew where I was running. Yep. So that's,
Yeah. And, and it's kind of a head count, too, to make sure everyone's accounted for. And that, for you guys, especially you, Scott, over there, who's worried about a lot of that stuff, like, where's lane 6? Like, why is nobody in lane 6? Oh, they didn't clerk, no one clerked and did all that. So it's like, yeah, so it is important. So that would be a cool addition if they could put on top. Please go check in and clerk. In
terms of the actual facility itself, I remember I was coaching over at High School South with my old high school coach when it was built. We went through a walkthrough, and one concern that he had was the long jump and triple jump pit being located where it is, has that been an issue with the fact that you have to run across the actual track while events are going on? Do you think that's a reason why maybe the NJSIA hasn't incorporated some long jump and triple jump in the indoor season because of the structure of how the facility is?
I do believe that it is a reason they didn't put it in. They haven't put it in. They didn't put it in originally. We have in the past, probably 3, 4, 5 years ago, we did a long jump and triple jump day for the NJSIA. So those kids would come on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. They'd come down. We would do all the boys long jump, all the boys, all the girls long jump, and then do triple for each. I believe it was top 20 kids in the state with a mark.
Yep.
And then they would compete on an off day. So yeah, I do believe that the reason they don't put it in is because you can't. There's no way to really run it during a meet because you're not going to get it in during the 55s. And even if you did, you're running the runway back at the 55s, right next to the 55s. So just from a logistics standpoint, you can't really do that. So yeah, if it was not there, then I think you'd see more of it. I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys talked a little bit before the whole entire show about adding some more meets for the sub-varsity level. And obviously you guys mentioned you went from 50 plus to now 70 plus meets. I'd imagine some of those would be some of your frost off sub-varsity levels. So, kind of talk about what you guys are trying to do for maybe those individuals that aren't necessarily varsity athletes to get more opportunities to compete.
Well, the one thing that, like I said, we get a lot of time when we're there to talk about things. And, Scott being a track coach, me being a track coach in town, the girl, Stacy Scavuzza, who works up there, she's a track coach in town. So we talk a lot about what we would do to make track meets in high school, more people come out to them. So we decided to put together what we call the Toms River Classic. So it would be just the Toms River schools competing in a varsity meet, and then you would name your champion of Toms River on the boys and the girls side. So we started that last year. And we thought it would just be a fun rivalry type thing. You get the kids out, to play, to go against each other. Because in the wintertime, you don't really see teams head to head. You only see them in, multiple team meets. So we did that. We're talking about this year possibly doing a JV Ocean County, Monmouth County championship. So cool. Those kids who are not running in your Ocean or Monmouth County championships, then they can run in a JV, and now you can name a JV champion. We're talking about doing a couple, either throws and jumps only, or like a Rothman's fastest athlete. So like running the 55 and the 4. It's still kind of in the beginning stages. Those are kind of things that we really wanted. Those are the newer things. We've always done a frosh novice for boys and the girls. It always ends up in the end of January, beginning of February. But just more ways to get people involved in some meets that aren't necessarily your standards meets. And then we're going to open a season with an icebreaker this year, which is going to have some funky things in it. We're talking about doing maybe co-ed relay meets, relay events, and things like that.
I've always wanted
shot put relay. Get
shot
those guys
relay
on the track running.
But I always thought it would be funny and interesting if they did like a Toms River versus like Manchester, Jackson, and Lakewood, like the surrounding schools. Like if you just did like a big battle, where it's like, you're all running you're wearing your own high school jerseys.
That's called the Ocean County Championships
together. Yeah. And no, not all Ocean County, but just like pick like 3 other teams, like the closest ones, just so we could beat
a 3-on-3.
Yeah, just so we can continue to beat Toms River at things.
Okay.
That's not a good idea. That actually sounds like a pretty good idea. Don't get upset if we use it.
I mean, yeah, but listen, that's fine. You heard it here first on Talking to Nobles. Maybe we'll get involved in that somehow. But yeah, no, that would be cool. And like you can invite like 3 teams around the area every year, 3 different teams, and as you guys are battling to be the best in Toms River, now it'll be like Toms River Pride versus 3 other rivals. Could be cool.
Right. Yeah, this year with the Toms River Classic, we invited Monsignor Donovan, or Donovan Catholic, whatever you want.
They are in Toms
They're
River.
Monsignor Donovan. Don't call them Donovan Catholic.
Donovan Catholic.
No.
We'll bring them in, and mine are over there. No, they're here.
So with the addition now of, say, the Ocean Breeze and the Armory, have those facilities cut into some of your guys' meets? I mean, obviously the Meet of Champs is now at Ocean Breeze, and do you think that the fact that maybe the bubble isn't banked is becoming maybe something that will be looked at in the future, or is it just going to stay how it is? You guys are going to have your 70 meets, and like, do you feel that the addition of these new facilities has hurt some of your meets there, or is it still status quo? We're just going to go and have as many meets as we can.
I think Staten Island, taking the Meet of Champions. I don't know how many Jersey meets they will get besides that. Before the passing of Bill Bruno, they had talked about doing the groups over there. But that never panned out. I think the issue is, and I've never met the Staten Island people, and I've never been to Staten Island. We always say at the end of the year, we're going to go. But by the time we wrap up that last meet, we're like, I'm done for track.
It's a beautiful facility. I was coaching at Marist when they first opened up. It's just nice. Anytime you get an all track facility, it's just a blessing. And It is very dedicated to track. So it is a nice facility.
And I get why the Meet of Champs went there. I get it. I totally understand. We as a district, I speak to my athletic director about it, and we understand. Our facility is somewhere between $2 and $3 million facility. Staten Island, somewhere between upwards of $25 to $30 million facility. Yeah. So it's apples and oranges. Do I ever think that they're going to get, they're truly going to get a huge dose of New Jersey track? No, I don't. I don't think they will, because there are still schools around that cannot travel across the bridge, will not travel across the bridge.
Yep.
And if you look at their schedule is, it's not as packed as ours, but they do have a busy schedule. And, talking to meet directors, the way it kind of works there is like, I'd like to have January 7th. And they say to you, well, you can have January 20th, take it or leave it. And if you don't take it, you've left it. And that's,
Right. And Toms River is very centrally located. It's right off the Parkway. It's an easy drive. It's an absolute blessing that facility is there. And I think sometimes as coaches and people involved in the sport, we get so wrapped up in, well, it's banked, so it has to be, just embrace what you have, and it's way better than anything that I ever had. Yep. So I think a lot of people get so caught up in, well, you can't do the long jump. Okay, they have meets where you can. Just people need to embrace what they have and be grateful for the fact that you have this beautiful thing right in the center of our state. It's easy to get to. It's accessible. There's restaurants close by, and just stop with all this. It has to be better.
And there'll always be those realists who say, we have to get to Staten Island. We have to get there. And, being a parent of a high school kid, I just don't know that I could stand sending my kid to Staten Island and then rolling back in the house at 1:00 in the morning because they're in Staten Island from a meet. Yeah. And that's the one thing, talking to the middle school kids, at the end of the season, hey, if you do winter track, you never have to leave Toms River. Yeah. And your parents can come to every single meet in the wintertime. And I think that's beneficial for us as Toms River athletes, not only because you're in town, you're not riding a bus to Red Bank, you're not riding a bus to Princeton. And us as a district, we're saving money on the buses and things like that.
That should be a penalty to any coaches that complain. They have to go, they have to gather up all the coaches. And by the end of the year, they have to run a meet at Red Bank the following year. That's their punishment. They have to enter their team at Red Bank just so
that's not fair to anyone.
No, but don't complain about something that Dave and I and you guys all remember when there was no bubble and we did have to go to Princeton, Red Bank, Jersey City Armory, which sucked. That wasn't none of those places were ideal. Princeton was a nice track. It was just far and it was weird setup. So it was
couldn't wear spikes.
Couldn't wear spikes. So, but I am curious, is there ever any talks about possibly figuring out a way to maybe expand the bubble, maybe get, try and reach out to some donors with deep pockets. Obviously before, Ritako and all those things happened with him, he was doing some good things in Toms River outside of doing some really terrible things. But sports wise, he was building a lot of stuff. Is there any talks about possibly teaming up with other districts and things like that to take some of the weight off of only Tom's River? Because you can't expect only Tom's River to sit there and like pour like $10 million into renovating this and doing something big when all of Ocean and Monmouth County uses it, right? So it's like, has there ever been a talk about trying to do something like that?
At this point, there hasn't been a talk, not that I'm aware of any expanding. I don't know how you would even. I'm not a builder. I wasn't there when it was built. I'll be honest. I never even watched the building go up. I didn't know about it till the meet number 2 when Scott called me. I was at my house and he's like, "Come down here because we're doing track meets and check this out." So, so yeah, there was no real talk. There hasn't been real talk about it. I don't know if that's a possibility, but.
I mean, I'd imagine they'd probably have to like tear the actual bubble down, build probably more of a brick and mortar facility than just like it would be a huge operation. So that's why it's like, I'm not going to sit there and whine and moan because it's like, yeah, let's ask the Toms River districts to do it on their own and everyone else benefit from it. Like they did that once. Everyone else needs to kind of buck up now. But I mean, like Dave said, anyone that complains, they're probably younger and don't remember when there wasn't an option. It's like, and everyone else is looking at it going like, listen, this is awesome. Like we have an indoor track in our backyard. What more could we complain about? So, anything else that's upcoming in the bubble, anything cool or new that you guys want to talk about to let anyone know?
Going into this year, I don't know if there's anything. I mean, the scoreboard that we used in the past, we're now using flat screens, which I think is a great thing. It's much quicker to get the results out and things like that. I think it's easier for the athletes to see it. The athletes really like it. Other than that, I think we're kind of where we were last year. We haven't really, there's nothing really new coming out other than we're doing, more meets and things like that. I'm hoping those new meets will take off and people will be really interested and we'll have the opportunity to, get more kids to do more running and keep more kids involved and, have a really good season with them.
Anything in terms of seating, or is that just not possible for like seating for fans and things like that?
There's really, when it comes to bleachers, fire code is fire code. And with the removal of the scoreboard in the corner, we will have more bleachers down there for pole vault parents.
Okay.
So the pole vault parents can then see their kids better than just standing on the side of the track. But other than that, the fire code kind of limits us to what we can and can't put on the floor. So
it certainly makes sense. So
I have one more question. What was it like when you guys got the call that the bubble kind of came down on the actual
which
that
time?
Had to be, I know. I think it happened twice, right?
Yeah. Well,
and are there concerns? If do you guys like? Oh my God, we're gonna have like 18 inches of snow, which we don't really get now, but we used to. Like, is that always something that's in the back of your mind? Like, just hold up, stay good.
Oh yeah,
we got meets coming up.
Yeah, I'm the man I mentioned before, John Biscotti, who's our facility guy. He's he knows that place in and out. He's been there since day one. I will tell you when they hear snow's coming, John Biscotti packs a bag and sleeps on a pole vault mat in the bubble. The last time the bubble came down, what was it, last year or the year before? Whenever the last time was.
Year before, I think. Yeah.
John was on the phone with me. I live in Lacey Township. He was on the phone with me. He was at the bubble as the snow was accumulating on the roof.
That had to be kind of terrifying.
Yeah, and it was to the point where he was asking me what I needed him to take down, because if the building continued to come down, it would start to crush things. And it got to the point where I was on the phone, and then the phone the phone hung up. And I didn't hear from John for about a half hour. And I'm like, John,
where's John?
Yeah. I mean, John,
you got to stop sleeping there, man. Like, that's not safe.
If you don't know John Biscotti, I'll say right here, and then it'll be documented. That building does not run without John Biscotti. I can put meets together. Scott can run meets and seed kids and things like that. But we don't do meets without John Biscotti, because he is, he's there all hours doing his job and taking care of things, and he's great at that place. So without him, we don't have a bubble.
So one of the things, last questions we like to ask people is, how could we improve this sport? Now, you guys are kind of, we talk to a lot of athletes and things like that, but you guys are kind of the unsung heroes of how this sport functions, right? Like, everyone sees the athletes, everybody sees the coaches, but then there are the meet directors, then there are the facility directors, the timers, the officials, the people that, do everything behind the scenes to get these meets going that we do. So from your perspective, as people that run a very, frequently used facility and things like that, how could we improve this sport to make it, more widely viewed and, appreciated by people outside of just track families? Either one of you could start.
Yeah, it's a tough question from our point of view. I mean, as far as from a meet standpoint, make sure your kids are where they belong. If they're, if you know when your heat is, make sure you're on time. We try to make our meets as less time consuming to make it better for people. And you guys, we all kind of watch track on TV, and it takes hours upon hours upon hours to watch, and it grinds on you. And if we try to make our meets we try to set them up so we know that it's not going to be a 5-hour meet or a 5.5-hour meet. So, as far as kids go, do what you got to do, get where you belong. Make sure you're on time and running in the right heat and not slowing us down so that we have to add time to an end of a meet.
And I also think, like with Mile Split, how Robert does, the fact that you can watch these meets online has been huge, so like not every parent, you don't have 15, 20 family members for each kid trying to cram an actual place so they can just go online, watch the actual meet. I think that has been a huge advancement for the state too, that they have that live stream.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, that's great, because you're right. Your kid runs a meet and you're from Randolph, and you can't get down here at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. But now you can watch your kid run. I think that's great. I think Mile Split has been great for the sport itself, because they cover so many different aspects of the sport. And some kids don't, if it's not getting covered by Mile Split, people don't know. Like years ago, Sydney McLaughlin's, she's tearing up the world, doing all these amazing things. Sydney ran with us back when she was in high school. Yep. So, people were like, I never knew she ran there. Robbie Andrews from Alpin, he ran there. He was an Olympian.
Past guest.
The girl, Aja Wilson from Neptune, she ran there. So I think if people started to pay attention more to track as a whole, how do you do that? I don't know, because in Toms River there's not really a elementary track program where there's not kids can play baseball anywhere and they play basketball anywhere, but there's not really that little kid track program. So I think that would be a start, but I don't know how you do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. You would need someone, in the community to start a track club and, to build it through, and that would only enhance it, and for all the way up through the college and pro level.
And we try to do that with our middle school programs. I mean, my program at Intermediate South was the smallest of the three. And I mean, we've had upwards of 200 kids on the track team. Nice. Intermediate East, last year you had almost 300 kids on the track team in the springtime. Awesome. I had 35 kids throwing for me between boys and girls.
Great.
So, that in the middle school, we try to keep everybody involved. We try to make sure that they're excited for the next chapter when they get up to the high school. And I know Kyle and I both make sure that we teach our kids so that when they get to the high school, they can just expand. They don't have to relearn everything. Yep. And it's good that there's a lot of coaches out there that do that, and that helps keep kids involved so that when they get to the next level, they're not starting over.
And I think that's a reoccurring theme with some of our guests is, the community, get the kids involved, get them going, teach them and make them excited for the sport. And I think that's definitely a good way to just create fans for life, right? Because all of those memories of, what, that was fun in middle school. Maybe I didn't finish it in high school, but I used to throw, and now I'm watching this guy throw and he's incredible. I did that. So maybe there's definitely something to that. And gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. This was lots of fun.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was good. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you.
So once again, it's Scott and Kyle Austin. You heard they're both coaches over in the Toms River Intermediate, middle schools over there, and they're both integral parts to the John Bennett Indoor Complex. One being a co-manager of timing, the other facility manager, and they grind it out all the time. They do the background work to make sure that if you run at the bubble, go find these guys, thank them. because they have families, they have things that they could be doing outside on Saturdays, outside on random weekdays, going after, putting in their time, making sure that you can go and compete in your sport or go and coach in your sport. So be kind to them. Don't give them shit. And, definitely go find them and thank them, because without them, we don't have track and field. So once again, guys, thank you so much for coming on. Dave, do you have anything else before we jump out of here?
No, it's just, wonderful to just see how things are actually done from the backside, because as a coach, as an athlete, you focus solely on what's going on the track. And sometimes I think we forget all the little intricacies and the hard work that it goes into making sure that your athlete can run at this time in this event. So thank you guys for all the hard work that you do. You have certainly transformed this sport in the winter season for so many coaches, so many athletes, and it's an absolute blessing that we have the opportunity to compete in a track only facility. And it's just, thank you.
Yeah, it was definitely awesome. Last week we found out how to lay a track. This week we found out how to run a facility. Now, Dave, we need to get an official on, and we need to do the trifecta of like the unsung heroes of track.
The only problem is not many officials, probably have a computer. I'm just kidding, because they are.
Listen, yes, we need some younger officials, please. And please, if you are young and you like track but aren't competing, go be an official. So anyway, if you like what you heard, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars. Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Find us on the socials at Talking in Ovals everywhere. We'll be back next week. So long, everybody.